Good evening and welcome to the March 17th City Council meeting. If you join me for a moment of silence in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Snyder, roll call, please.
Volk. Here. Heller.
Here.
Bermel. Here. Walter. Here. Lee.
Here. We'll move on to item 3, citizens' comments. There's an opportunity for those in the audience to address the council for up to 3 minutes. You can just approach, state your name and address.
Good evening. First of all, happy St. Patty's Day. Name is Kurt Mikas. I live at 17265 North Creek Lane, and that's the famous North Creek Trailer Park. You know, the one that's all the bad people live in. Yeah, that's me. I'm here to ask the city council to possibly put on agenda a motion where we could get a jailbreak ordinance. I've been in contact with Dakota County because I already called the city and they said it's a county road on Pilot Knob and Highway 46. And I'm asking you guys to possibly get an ordinance. Dakota County said if you have an ordinance, they will put the signs up and it'll make it a little bit more quieter for us residents on Pilot Knob and Highway 46. Because we have all these nasty semis coming down with no mufflers, and you probably heard them all the way down to first gear, and it's not an emergency. They do it just because they love to hear their exhaust. So if you possibly could, I'd appreciate it if you could do something about this and make our lives a little more quieter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mikas. I'll follow up with you. Thanks. Any other citizen comments? Okay, moving on, item number 4, any additional agenda information, Mr. Miller?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Moving on to presentations, introductions. So I wanted to just take a moment. We're going to do a proclamation recognizing Kilo on his retirement and also honoring Sergeant Tom Danielson. And I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Bermel to read a proclamation. Then I think the chief had some remarks as well.
Thank you. Proclamation recognizing Kilo, the K-9, on his retirement and honoring Sergeant Tom Danielson for his service. Whereas the City of Lakeville takes great pride in recognizing the dedication and service of its law enforcement officers and K-9 units. And whereas Kilo, a valued K-9 member of the Lakeville Police Department, has honorably served the community with distinction, loyalty, and unwavering commitment. And whereas, throughout his years of service, Kilo has played a crucial role in protecting the citizens of Lakeville by assisting in criminal apprehensions, narcotics detection, search and rescue operations, and community engagement. And whereas, Kilo's service has contributed to the safety and well-being of the Lakeville community, demonstrating the invaluable partnership between law enforcement officers and their K-9 counterparts. And whereas, after years of dedicated service, Kilo is retiring from active duty, and the City of Lakeville wishes to extend its gratitude for his commitment and performance. And whereas, Sergeant Tom Danielson, Kilo's handler, has demonstrated exceptional leadership, dedication, and professionalism in his role, strengthening the effectiveness of the K-9 unit and fostering positive community relations. And whereas Sergeant Danielson is transitioning to new duties within the Lakeville Police Department, and his contributions to the K-9 program and public safety efforts will be remembered with great appreciation. Now, therefore, the Lakeville City Council formally recognizes and expresses its deepest gratitude to Kilo for his years of service and congratulates him on a well-earned retirement. Be it further resolved that the City of Lakeville honors Sergeant Tom Danielson for his dedicated service as Kilo's handler and his ongoing commitment to law enforcement. And be it finally resolved that the mayor and city council, on behalf of all residents, extend their best wishes to Kilo in his retirement and to Sergeant Danielson in his new role. Proclaimed this 17th day of March, 2025 by Mayor Luke M. Hillier.
Very good. Chief?
Reaction a lot. Thank you. You guys come on. So I just want to take a minute to further recognize Sergeant Danielson and Kilo. We have a plaque here that we'll be handing over this evening. So this is in recognition of Kilo's 9 years of service to the Lakeville Police Department, 2016 to 2025. He officially retired from duty on March 2nd, so a little over 2 weeks ago. But canines are such an essential tool for a police department, and Sergeant Danielson has put an immense amount of work into training and handling Kilo. I think when new officers are hired and come through and we ask them what they want to do in their career, canine handler is one of the most sought after positions until they realize what goes into it. This isn't a tool that you tuck away in your locker at the end of the shift and come back the next day and grab. This is something that's with you all day, all night, whether you're working, whether you're on vacation. These dogs are there with those handlers all the time. Because of that is a unique bond that gets formed, obviously, and they partner up and do an outstanding job. And I know it was highlighted, but the community engagement aspect, I think there's over 85 documented events and certainly many others that are just much less formal and undocumented, but just a great tool for us to break down that barrier and connect with people. Everybody seems to love coming up with dogs and they're coming up to dogs, and Kilo's a very social dog that has allowed that. But when it's time to work, he gets to work too. So in recognition of Kilo and Sergeant Danielson's years of canine handling service, we're here to present a plaque, and we're happy that we're only losing half of this tandem to retirement, as Tom's official first day as a sergeant is today. So congrats.
Congrats.
Good boy.
Oh, great picture.
I'm locked in on that thing.
Yeah. It's going to tear your arm off.
Wow.
All right. Thank you, Sergeant Danielson and Chief Paulson. And enjoy your retirement, buddy. Moving on to item 6, our consent agenda. Any items you'd like to highlight, Mr. Miller?
Mayor, 2 tonight. Item 6C is a resolution with the Minnesota Department of Transportation. This is more commonly known as a Safe Routes to School grant. So this is a $615,000 grant that'll go toward their reconstruction and expansion of 185th Street this summer. So we're very appreciative of that grant. And then item 6P is a resolution appointing members to advisory boards, committees, and commissions. These were based upon decisions and interviews that the council made a few weeks ago. So thank you to everybody who stepped up and volunteered for those.
Very good. I echo that. Any items you'd like to discuss further? Otherwise, I'll take a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the consent agenda passes. We'll now move on to item 7A, a marketplace at Cedar preliminary plat and conditional use permit. And I believe we have the applicants here, or staff report, or who's going first? Yep. Okay. Good evening, Ms. Goodroad.
So, Mayor, members of the council, I just want to introduce Jay Moore with Appoden. Do you want to say a couple things, and then I'll get started?
Good evening, Mayor and fellow council members. My name is Jay Moore.
Audubon Investment Company, 400 Water Street, Excelsior, Minnesota. We've been at this now for over a year, but I think our plan is coming together, and in sweet time, things hopefully will come together as a nice project here for the city. And so we have been working with city staff, with Chris and Tina along the way, and I do have Mitch from ISG Engineering if we have any technical questions, but I think the plan in front of you should be pretty straightforward tonight, and we're here to answer any questions if you have them.
Very good, thank you.
All righty. Well, happy St. Patrick's Day. All right, so Audubon Investment Company's requested approval of preliminary plat for 9 commercial lots and 5 outlots to be known as Marketplace at Cedar. They're also requesting a conditional use permit to have a lot without public street frontage. So the property is located at the corner of 179th and Cedar, and you can see it's just across the street from Crossroads of Lakeville, which is to the north of 179th, and then the central maintenance facility is just to the west of this property. And then there's a variety of different townhome developments around the area, and then the existing park and ride is to the south. The zoning on this property and land use is both mixed use, so it's corridor mixed use for land use, and it's zoned M2, which is mixed use Cedar Corridor District. So this preliminary plat is very similar to residential preliminary plats. It's basically just the division of the different lots to create the development. Each one of these lots will then go through a final plat process, just like different divisions of a subdivision for residential. Within this, they are platting the right-of-way, and they will be building Glenshaw, that east-west roadway, and then that roadway will extend to the south and connect to 181st Street. All of the lot requirements are being met. The lot number 8, which is highlighted in purple, this is the lot that needs the conditional use permit, as it doesn't have the public street frontage. However, on the site plan, as in your packet, it does have access to the public street. All the right-of-way is being dedicated. Easements and outlots and park dedication for the various lots will be determined with each final plat. There may be some instances where a conditional use permit is required depending on the use, particularly for some of the drive-through uses, but for the most part, many of these will just go through the final plat and then the site plan review process. As a commercial development under the M2 zoning, you can see on the plan they provided a site plan and indicated, what some of those potential users will be. Audubon has been working on those different agreements. We have another meeting coming up this Thursday to kind of take the next step and get some of these uses through the preliminary or the final plat process. But we know there's going to be some quick serve restaurants, a grocer, daycare, bank, and so forth. So a nice variety of businesses within this area. Access will be from 179th as a right-in, and then enter the development, and then there's that east-west roadway. There'll be cross-access easements that get filed with the final plat, and then there's a lot of internal. I'm going to jump to a different screen. Internal sidewalks. We really wanted this to be as pedestrian as possible. So with the construction of Glenshaw, there'll be a sidewalk on the north side as well as the west side until the remaining outlots develop. And then the other dark black lines indicate either existing trails or new connections between the different uses to really make it as pedestrian as we could. Again, here is the plat. Again, there's a couple of outlots. Outlot A, B, and C are for stormwater. The remaining outlot D and E, the 2 large ones, will likely be outlot E, I would guess, may still continue to be housing. Outlot D is that project that was approved for a senior building a couple of years ago, and that did not continue their conditional use permit. So still up for not quite sure exactly what those final uses would be. There is some landscaping that's required just as a pure buffering along Glacier because of the abutting zoning district to the east is residential, so that screening will go in right away. Each of the individual lots will also have landscaping. The developer has been cognizant of us wanting to have some cohesive building design, and they've created some standards as well as some cohesive landscaping. So all of that will be looked at during each of the individual final plats and site plan reviews. So again, a very straightforward application. The Planning Commission did hold a public hearing at their meeting on March 6th. There was no public comment, and the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval. And I would stand for any questions along with the applicant.
Okay, thank you. Council, questions or comments? Joshua?
Just a comment to say that it's exciting to see this corner develop. I think council has had conversations numerous times about the need and want from residents to have more commercial and retail, and so this is definitely filling that need. And thank you to the Planning Commission for their thorough review. So no questions from me.
Okay. Council, if not, I'll take a motion.
Move to approve a resolution approving the marketplace at Cedar preliminary plat, and 2, a conditional use permit to allow a lot without public street frontage and adoption of the findings of fact.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Because I'll echo Councilmember Lee's, we're excited to see this progress and have a lot of new business neighbors, so we're excited for that. So with that, I'll take roll call, please.
Lee?
Aye.
Volk?
Aye.
Heller?
Aye.
Bermel?
Aye.
Walter?
Aye.
Okay. Congratulations. Look forward to the partnership. Thank you. We'll now move on to item B, a resolution authorizing issuance, awarding sale, prescribing the form and details, and providing for the payment of $22.25 million in general obligation bonds. And I will turn it over to our finance director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. We had a very positive bond sale this morning for this $22 million. And we just reiterating that Moody's did confirm our AAA bond rating, so that of course helps. We had several bidders, 13, which Jessica will allude to. Last time we had this happen, I think it was in 2020. So there's a lot of action. This is paying portions of the 2025 street reconstruction project, some of the collector rehabilitation, and then the largest portion is the CIP bonds portion for the first training facility. So with that, I'm going to let Jessica Green, Managing Director at Northland, give you the details.
Thank you. Welcome, Ms. Green.
Council, good evening.
Good evening. Good to see you again.
As Julie just mentioned, we had a bond sale this morning for the city, and stole my thunder a little bit. I'm kidding. Really, really good results. A lot of interest in the city's bonds today. So it's not a record, but we're one shy of a record. So back in 2020, you had 14 bids, and this time you had 13. So really nice results today. So we do have a sales summary for you like we normally do. Looks like this on the cover. So I'll just plan to go through the high-level details of the sale today. And then, of course, happy to answer any questions. So proceeds of the bonds here will be used to finance, of course, the 2025 street reconstruction activities. And then we also have a CIP portion, which will go towards the construction of the First Responders Skills Training Center. And then the bonds were also sized to include cost of issuance as well. Related to the structure and the finance plan here, we have a 10-year structure for the street reconstruction activities, and then a longer term here for the CIP portion for the training center at 20 years. Security here is the general obligation pledge of the city, so the city will pledge ad valorem taxes to the bonds. That being said, we do anticipate that the city will be eliminating the CIP portion of the levy with your franchise fee revenue. So that not directly pledged to the payment of the bonds, but it can offset. Moody's did, of course, confirm the AAA for the city. They continue to mention the strong and growing economy here in Lakeville, the strong residential income ratios, and then also just overall financial performance. So you have ample reserves and very strong liquidity, so all very good marks in terms of how Moody's is rating the city. Method of sale here, competitive, again, 13 bids. Piper Sandler out of Minneapolis, so a local underwriter, is purchasing the bonds, or they are the apparent low bidder. We have a final maturity of February 1 of 2046, and then you have the optional call date beginning February 1 of 2033. So at any time thereafter, you can call the bonds in, whether that's to restructure, pay them down, et cetera. And you can do that in whole or in part. And then finally, at the bottom of page 2 here, we just have a comparison between the finance plan and the final. I did notice a typo here. We did not drop from $22,250,000 down to $2,250,000. We stayed at that par amount of $22,250,000. The only change here really is to the true interest cost. We had been estimating 3.88. That came in at 3.85. So very, very close to what we had been anticipating. Your bid tab is found on the 3rd page, so you can see Piper, the low bidder here, and then the cover bids, so sort of the next in line, really, really close. So Piper coming in at 3.836, Raymond James coming in at 3.841, and you can see sort of just the ascending rates here. So really strong covers, especially in those first several bidders. So very, very interested market today for Lakeville's bonds. So again, really nice sale results. From there, we've got the sources and uses on page 4, along with the pricing summary. The pricing summary, council will probably remember when we go through these bond sale results, you oftentimes see premium on the bonds, which just means that investors are looking for a higher stated rate or interest rate on the bonds. They're willing to give you cash up front to do that. So that pricing summary in the middle of the page simply compares the stated coupon rate. So you'll see in the very beginning, you've got a lot of 5% rates. And then with the cash contributed, you can see what the actual yield is on the bonds. So nice amount of premium today, about $1,031,000. So, and that is because of the fact that the yield curve has changed from the last time that you issued bonds. So it used to be inverted. We're now coming into a more normal shape for the yield curve, which means overall that your yields on the early years is much lower, which again is driving up that premium because we're still seeing 5% coupons here. You've got a debt service schedule on a combined basis on page 5. Those are broken out separately for the street reconstruction and the CIP portions. We provide those schedules to staff so they're able to manage the bond issue. And then you've got just some information related to local issuance and also national issuance this week. So busy week for the bond market. Not a whole lot going on here in Minnesota, just three sales this week, but Lakeville being the only standalone sale today. And then finally, as we always do, you've got a couple of graphs here. This is really meant to give you sort of the 5-year versus 25-year snapshot so you can see kind of how interest rates are behaving. And with that, I will stand for any questions that you may have.
Okay, very good. Council, any questions, comments? Councilmember Lee?
Thank you. A couple questions. One, when it comes to the bid tab, is there anything we can glean about perceptions of our city based on who's here? Is there anything we can think about, or why is it such a popular day for us to receive these bids?
So there's a couple of things going on here. One, the size of the bonds is very attractive. So when you get over 10, 15, and into the 20 millions, you're going to see a lot of national attention. What I would say is based on, again, the cover bids and how these are stacking up, they're just so close to each other, the first 4 or 5 bidders. A strong bond sale, you typically will see 4 or 5 bids. So the fact that you're getting 13 bids is really indicative of the fact that the city is just very strong. Your rating obviously reflects that. So in terms of positioning the city, I really don't think that there's a whole lot of work to do here. You're doing a great job. And then what I would just say is that some of these that kind of fall towards the end where we're seeing Truist or Bank of Oklahoma is that BOK Financial at the very bottom. We wouldn't necessarily call those throwaway bids, but they're putting something out into the market and just kind of hoping that it sticks. But in this case, you've seen that there are a number of different underwriters that were certainly willing to sharpen their pencil to be the most competitive. So again, I think the city is just very well positioned. So not a whole lot of suggestion for you, unfortunately.
One follow-up. You said Lakeville's bond sale was the only standalone today?
For Minnesota issuance, yep.
Gotcha. So is there anything to be said about the timing of when we decided to go out to the market and for future bond sales, the strategy around that?
So this is interesting. Normally, Lakeville sells their bonds a little bit later in the year. So typically we're doing this in June or July. It just so happened that you've got construction projects to deal with, so that was sort of forcing the earlier timeline. So that could certainly be working in your favor. Obviously, Minnesota, we have a short construction period. So oftentimes bond sales are kind of starting to show in May, June, July. So it could just be that because we're a little bit earlier in the year, that's working in your favor. It's tough sometimes when you're trying to set an issuance schedule, just because you're lining up your date of sale with the council meeting date, right? So you don't have a ton of control over when other cities are selling, and there's a lot of cities that tend to meet on Mondays. So sometimes those can stack up. But in this case, it may be, helpful that you're just selling earlier in the year. So not a definitive takeaway there, but yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
It's great information, thank you. Okay, any other comments? If not, I'll take a motion on the resolution. Councilmember Walter?
I move to approve a resolution authorizing issuance, awarding sale, prescribing the form and details, and providing for the payment of $22,250,000 general obligation bond series 2025A.
Okay. Is there a second? Any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Bermal,
Aye.
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Vogt,
Aye.
Heller.
Aye.
Thank you very
Good.
much.
I'm glad that passed because we were already at the groundbreaking today, so. Wasn't worried, but With that, any unfinished or new business? Seeing none, a couple announcements. Our next work session is next Monday, March 24th, right here at the Lake Marion Conference Room. Our next city council meeting is April 7th, back here in the council chambers. And with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned. Good job, everybody.